Something is changing. I can feel it in my water. In the dark lands of South Holland, there lives a creature, not quite man, not quite halfling, who calls himself Jacob, owner and designer of modern folk embroidery. Here, in his studio, which is hotter than the fires of Mount Doom and darker than the lands of Mordor, he brings you the embroidery of power.
Hello, I am Jacob de Graaf. I am the owner and the designer of Modern Folk Embroidery, as you have just heard in this rather epic opening that I just did, which I had recorded 2 months ago when there actually was a heatwave and my studio was hotter than the fires of Mount Doom. But yeah, it's been 2 months and I still haven't sat down to actually record the video. So I thought I would better sit down today and finally do a video. It's October, it's lovely autumnal. I can look out of my window here and the leaves are falling from the trees. It looks just absolutely stunning. And I thought, like, you know what, it's cozy weather. I'm gonna go and record a video today. So good to see you again. It's been a hot minute, but yeah, I'll try and do a bunch of videos again. Not sure if I'm going to split this one up into parts or not, because there's quite a few things that we need to go through, otherwise I'll do another video soon. But just don't believe me when I say soon, because I said that in my last video and that didn't happen either. Anyway, on to new stuff, because I have quite a few new things in my shop, and I'm super excited about sharing a few antique samplers with you today. Some of you might have seen some of them already. I have some fully finished objects that I even hadn't started after the last video I did, so it's very exciting to sort of share those finally with you as well. But yeah, we're going to dive in. So as you've seen, it was a little bit of a Lord of the Rings themed introduction, which means that there is a new Lord of the Rings pattern, inspired, I should say, J.R.R. Tolkien estate. Please don't come after me, thank you. It's a pattern. I was speaking to Brom and Morty. Link is in their Flosstube down in the description below as well, and they're big fans of fantasy stuff, and I thought, like, you know what, it would be really fun to do an accompaniment piece together with the Namaria piece, which is all elvish and fluent and all of that stuff, and do a more rugged, robust Viking pattern. So it's a dwarven pattern, very much inspired by a Viking sort of visual language. It's much more angular. And it's funny because I saw a meme the other day on Instagram, and it was sort of saying how the elves, if they had lived on planet Earth, they would have been the brains behind Art Nouveau. And the dwarves would have been behind Art Deco, and it kind of makes sense when you look at it. All the harsh angular hooks, it is very dwarfish in language. So I've done a pattern. It has dwarfish runes. It has the runes from The Hobbit, which are much easier than the runes from the Lord of the Rings books, which Tolkien designed himself. However, when you get the booklet, you will notice that both runes, full alphabets, are in there. The rules for the Lord of the Rings runes are slightly different. It's more like the ancient runes. And for The Hobbit, he basically used a rune per letter, so you can read it like a regular Western 26-letter alphabet plus a few extra letters there. On the artwork, you see Morty right at the top. That was a little nod to Morty, as I thought it would be fun to put her name at the top, and then there is a poem in in runes, but I wrote that it's based on a song which is included in your download. So you get an MP3 of that one when you get it from my website, but the song will be played at the end as well. So if you get a print pattern, then you can still listen to the song at the end of this video. Yeah, so I'm super happy about this one, how this turned out. It's completely monochrome. You can pick whatever colors you like, if you want to keep it monochrome or if you want to go all wild and use lots of colors. It has 1400 just over 1400 crosses in total. It's 151 crosses wide and 195 crosses high. So it's sort of a medium height size pattern. So that is pattern number one. Yeah, thank you to Morty and Brom for the inspiration. It was really wonderful to actually meet up with them in real life during the big stitch in Rutherford. Which was absolutely Rotherham. My brain is just melting. Rotherham. It's not even that hot in here, and still my brain is melting. Yeah, it was an amazing retreat. Huge hall in Rotherham, and I think there was about 200 people, and it was fantastic. Did a bunch of workshops and talked about stuff. Showed samplers. There was a huge crowd of wonderful designers from across Europe, and yeah, it was just really wonderful to meet so many people there and say hi to lots of people that I either knew for quite a while through either Instagram or through here, Flosstube. So yeah, it was really, really wonderful, and I am very excited to go back to the UK next year for Stitch in London, which I believe has sold out, but it's a very exciting, very small retreat this time, very intimate, quite the opposite of a big stitch, which was really large. But yeah, it's fantastic, and I'm super excited about that one. But I did 2 tutorials in at the big stitch. And they are now available as PDFs as well. So the first one is the Frisian letters, and it teaches you, it sort of shows you the idea behind Frisian letters, the different types there are, and how you can make your own Frisian letters yourself. They're very easy to make. It gives you sort of building blocks, how you can design your own letters and how you can play around with them. So that one is a new one, and that was one of the tutorials that I did in Big Stitch. And the second one is the open hem tutorial, which is now finally available as a PDF as well from my website. And I will show you some pieces that I have in my personal collection and how I have finished them as well that actually do have the open hem stitch. It is a wonderful versatile stitch. You can play around with it. You can, once you have the basic idea down of the stitch, you can do different things with it as well. So it's a, yeah, it's a really amazing technique to master, I think. So that's those 2 new ones. Then there is, which one shall I do first? I'll actually start with Rink Simons. Now this one has been on my table for a long time. I have 3 samplers from Hindelopen. I think she's absolutely stunning, this one. I mean, look at this. So this is the sampler of Rink Simons, who stitched in 1781. Her sampler in the Frisian town of Hindelopen. And yeah, I think she's absolutely gorgeous. What I especially love about this sampler is that she is very manageable. She is not a huge pattern. It's 241 crosses in height and 172 crosses in width, which when you're a traditional sampler stitcher should be very doable. It does have quite a bit of backstitch in the lettering because there are big decorative Frisian letters, but yeah, it is quite doable. And the backstitches on the pattern, I don't know if it does show up properly, but this is the back of her work. Frisian samplers are never super mega neat on the back at all, and eyelets are definitely eyelets, listen to me, backstitches are never done in Holbein stitch on Frisian samplers, so you can just do and pull them over several crosses. It doesn't matter. That's very historically accurate, and that's what the girls did, because no one saw the back on these pieces. So yeah, that's how they would work these ones. But I really love this sampler. It was stitched by Rink, as I said. Her father was a captain, and he had a really nice boat, and they would sail to the Scandinavian islands, the Scandinavian countries, and to the coast of France. I know that he got into a storm once, and coffee got damaged that they had brought back from France, and there was a whole legal document being drawn up. But they were also buying and importing wood from the Scandinavian countries, so there was constantly trade between all those nations. And yeah, they would do a lot of sailing along the European coast, up and down from the northern sort of parts, Norway, Sweden and all of that, and down to south. I know as far as France, they might have gone even further to Spain, but I know that there was a huge trade between France at least and the Scandinavian countries, and then the Netherlands. So yeah, that was really exciting to learn a little bit more about her father and her family. Funnily, I don't know a huge deal about Rink herself as a woman, but she stitched her family here on the sampler. She stitched uncles and aunts here. It's got Simon in the yellow trousers at the bottom here. That's this gentleman just down here, and he's a beekeeper. And then there are lots of bees flying around on this sampler. He's smoking a big pipe. There's a jolly cart with some children in it pulled by a horse. There's a lady with some buckets standing next to a windmill and a little boy. And there's a really sweet cradle here. And she put the initials of her aunts and uncles down here, some siblings here, her parents. So it's a wonderful piece of Frisian embroidery. And I'm really, really happy with finally being able to release her and you being able to stitch this wonderful sampler. So that's Rink Simons. I will put here carefully. The second period sampler that I have is one from Groningen, and before I show her, she is a mess. I got her on an auction and I knew she was in a very bad state, but I just love her. I think she's a very special sampler. I absolutely adore the motifs on it. But when I started looking at this sampler, I kind of found the girl before I had purchased it, and I was doing some research, and based on the research I also could sort of do a little bit of planning how I could actually chart this one. So I will first show you the absolutely abysmal condition that this sampler is in. She is very fragile. She's been sort of stitched on very sheer fabric. You can literally see me through it, and you can see me through it as well because of the massive holes that are right at the bottom of this sampler. It is in extremely poor condition. However, I could, by looking at the back, see a little bit better what the colors might have been like, and I brightened those for my interpretation of this sampler. The stitching was also a huge mess. There was lots of stitches that were in the wrong spot, probably because of this really fine, it's nearly like netting. It's very sheer, which is not uncommon for samplers from Groningen, because this is actually a Groningen sampler. I like it as well because this predates the black samplers from Groningen. So this sampler is from 1792. There was already some black samplers, I believe, around that time, but predominantly the 18th century is still a very colourful period in Groningen. Very nice, symmetrical. We've got Joshua and Caleb with a giant bunch of grapes, a really wonderful border, which is, when you look at the pattern, it's not a mistake. The bottom flowers are different colours because she might have run out of red floss. Not sure what happened there. But what I really like is that she named her cloth. She named it a sewing cloth, and it says right at the bottom, FSB, which stands for Frauke Simons Bos. She was the daughter of a gentleman called Simon, so hence Simon's daughter, Simons, and then Bos was her family name. And yeah, you can read the booklet, you can find out much more about her and her family mainly. Again, with this girl, I couldn't find a huge amount about the girl itself, and even the bits that I found out about her birth certificates and death certificates were contradicting each other by several years. However, I do know that the death certificate is correct, but they might have gotten the year wrong, the age wrong on that one. But yeah, it is a wonderful sampler, this one, and it says at the bottom min naiduk, which means my sewing cloth, and then anno, which means in the year of 1792, and I just think she's spectacular. So for purists, I have included the original backstitch corner motifs as well, but because it is such a mess and I had to do so much replanning and everything, it is for full crosses, no specialty stitches at all in this one. If you want to do the original corner motifs with the back stitches, they are included, giving you the colors needed for that as well to get as close as possible to the original one. But yes, this one is a little bit bigger. It's larger than the other sampler. This one is 234 crosses in height and 302 crosses in width. Still quite manageable, I think. And I think once you have that border done, then you have done really the biggest part of this sampler. So that is the second of the new releases. This one isn't that new. It's been out for quite a few weeks now already, or maybe quite a few months. But yeah, I really like her. She comes charted for DMC floss, but you can also use the Leo and Roxy. Leo and Roxy. It's still so embedded, the name Roxy floss. The Roxy floss conversion is also included, so you can get that from Evertote in Canada. As you can get the print pattern as well from there. But yeah, this sampler is just such a joyous sampler. I love that big vase right at the middle, and when you see what the original sampler was like as well, it was such a different, more vibrant, colourful sampler than what it is today, really. Then I have some stitching that I would love to share with you. Finishes. Oh yeah, open hem. So this is one of the open hem pieces that I have done. This is the little Quaker sampler Embell, which this one was the original one, and this one was my fanciful bit that I designed, and I thought they were really nice together. But this is a sampler by Embell from 1856, which I then finished in 2022. God, time flies. With an open hem, and I've sewn it onto a piece of fabric, which I then put onto a wooden frame like that. So it's nice. It's a nice finish. It looks very neat, and you can hang it on your wall, and you don't need to actually frame it. You can just put it out like this. It keeps your stitching nice and open to the fresh air, which is nice. So yeah, that's a nice way to finish a piece. Then I have here a small finish that I've done. This is this small trifle kindly take and keep it for the giver's sake. I just love that saying. I came across it on a pincushion, and well, I've seen it on a couple of pieces, and it's just one of those really sweet, I think it's 18th century pincushion or early 19th century, and I really liked it. So I put a Violanda style flower pot here with some little deer, and that was one of my very recent finishes. I'm really happy with that one. This other little pattern I have not released yet, so I'm not going to show you that. That was also a finish that I've done. Then, so that was this small trifle. Then we have put a bird on it. If you are familiar at all with Portlandia, there was a brilliant sketch that they did where these two very Etsy-esque beginning days of Etsy sellers were just putting random birds on things, and it was a really funny sketch, and they actually didn't like birds, it turned out in the end. Poor pigeon at the end of that video. But it's a very funny video. So if you YouTube, I might put a link in the description down below if you want to check that video out. But it got me thinking, because we really like to put birds on things, right? As designers, as makers, throughout the centuries, really, people have been looking at birds, and whether it's for symbolism, as a symbol of love, like little lovebirds, or eternal life when you have the peacocks on patterns, or if it's just for lols, you know, you just put a bird on it. People have been placing them on documents, on decorations and architecture stuff, everything has birds on it. And I was making this Quaker inspired pattern, which is not a Quaker. It's Quaker inspired, very important to note that, because there's a lot of stuff here, like this huge element at the center. You would never see that on a Quaker pattern. These are all designed by me, all of these little motifs. So it's an original one inspired by antique Quaker samplers, but you won't find any of these motifs on an actual Quaker sampler, exactly as they are here. But yeah, I've put a little swan here. There's a medallion which actually has birds in the medallion. So yeah, there's just a whole ton of birds sort of tucked in little nooks and crannies everywhere on this pattern. And yeah, I thought that there were so many birds on it, I thought it would be fun to just call it, put a bird on it. So this one is out now. This one is, I'm just going to open that one, is 201 by 201 crosses and has a total of how many crosses? 13,570. So yeah, it is a medium-sized project. And that was also one of the finishes that I had over the last couple of months. So I'm really happy with that. Again, finished with the open hem, as you can see. It's a really nice, lovely finishing technique, which I really like to do. Haven't fully finished it, as it still needs to go on some backing like this one. But the idea is to have a red sampler wall, which might go up behind me here. And you can't see the wall behind me here, but it's full of antique samplers and other goodies. That brings me actually to the... Is that the last one? No, I have a few more patterns. I have I have 3 more patterns. I'm going to start with my stitch along. I am really happy about this because it is a finish, so I am going to show it to you. So this is the new pattern, and it's called Baldequin Birdies. Again, let's put a bird on it, right? This one is inspired by the graphic word of Daniel Marot. He was a French-born Dutch architect and designer, and during the period where basically the Huguenots were murdered in France and their churches were burned down, they escaped through the Netherlands and went to England as well for safety. And he settled in the Netherlands, and he took with him the court style that he had sort of made his own in France and made that popular in the Netherlands. So thanks to Daniel Marot, Baroque, like this Rococo style, really came to the Netherlands in this form. And this pattern was inspired by several of his block print decorative patterns that he had made, and I really liked it. So I took this vase from one of them, those little birds are from one of them, the motif of this cornucopia here is from one of those prints, the baldaquin here. So I found it quite funny because I was talking to some friends about a baldaquin, and a German friend of ours, she was talking about a sampler which had a baldaquin on it. And my English friends, they had not heard of the word baldaquin before, and it's basically just a fabric canopy that sometimes hangs over a saint or denotes something sacred or royal, but it is something more than average that it sort of covers. So the baldaquin here is very nice with ornaments hanging from it, and probably like little bells of flowers or just fanciful things. But I found it funny that my German friend and I knew what baldaquin was, but that's also because the Dutch word baldakijn, or baldaquin in German, I believe, are not super uncommon, I guess. And I mean, who uses it in regular language in English, right? You just don't talk about baldaquins at all. And I knew it through art stuff and my art education, because you see a lot of old paintings. So it was a word that I was familiar with. But I found it quite funny to then use the word birdies, which is such a childlike word, together with baldaquin, and it's alliteration, and we all love alliteration, right? So this is the stitch along for 2025. So from the 1st of January, it's again like this year's, put in 10 different parts. It's a little bit smaller, it's a bit more manageable again, so I think a lot of you should be able to join it and stitch something else as well. And I wanted to stitch it before the start so I could really show you the piece all finished up, but I'm really happy with it. This one has, let me just check, 295 crosses in height, 211 crosses in width, and there is a grand total of 27,920 crosses. If you're wondering where I keep staring to, my computer is just out of the picture on the left side of me, which is very handy. So yeah, this is the stitch along for 2025, the Modern Folk Embroidery stitch along. I can't wait what you all will be doing with this pattern, because if previous years have been anything to go by, it's always really, really amazing when I see what everyone is stitching. And I think if you have been intimidated by previous years, this one, I mean, I stitched it up in just a couple of weeks because I wanted to make the model. And it was, yeah, I think 10 days I stitched on it because I wanted to do one, and I stitched from morning till evening. I have to be honest there. It's not that I sort of just did it. It was proper full-time stitching. But there is about 2,790 crosses per month. I really made it quite strict that there is that same amount roughly each month. So you can either start from the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top. But it's planned top to bottom, but if you stitch like this, that's absolutely fine as well. Yeah, I am super excited how folks will be stitching this one. I think it could look really good with several colors, like having these birds, for instance, in different shades, and use some really nice variegated, exciting threads on those, for instance, and on those flowers, and then something more solid for the other elements. Yeah, I'm very excited about seeing what you all are going to do with that one. So that's that one. That's my actual fully finished objects. Don't have any more at the moment that I can share with you. I have a few new starts that I have. I'm working on 2 new patterns, but they haven't been released yet, so I can't yet reveal them. One of them that I have started, but is a little bit bigger. So if you think like, I want to stitch something MFE, but I mean, this is done in a week, then I have The Good Traveller, which is a new pattern, and I'm super, super excited about that one. The Good Traveller is huge, 479 crosses high and 383 crosses wide, and it has a grand total of, I think 80,000 something, wasn't it? 82,131 crosses, so that is quite a sampler. And this one came about in an interesting way as well, because I was looking at old pattern books by Peter Quentel, and he had these prints like Marot, just black drawings, and I thought like they would be so good as cross-stitch patterns, because Quentel also designed cross-stitch patterns. So I thought like, I'll go for that one. And I started making a pattern, and I got inspired, and I made another one. And then I started playing around with it, with the software, and it became a thing where I put all of these individual patterns all together in one thing, rearranged them, cut them up, and kept it expanding and expanding. So the pattern initially was going to be a small pattern, and just became this really big design. And it reminded me as well of a nice quote that I found in the Book of Secrets, the 1997 album by Lorena McKenna from Canada. And she quoted Lao Tzu in that one, the Chinese philosopher. And it said, "A good traveller has no fixed plans and is not intent on arriving." And I thought it was quite nice, because it is kind of what life is like, isn't it? It just takes you on unexpected turns, like a design might take you somewhere completely by surprise. And anything really, work, life, anything could take you on a completely excited journey. So I thought that was quite suitable to put that on this huge piece. So I'm really excited about stitching this one. I think I have done about 10%, so I've got a fair chunk still left to do. But yes, that's the Good Traveller, and I'm really, yeah, I'm super happy with this pattern. It is a big one, but yeah, it's a fun pattern, I think. Then the last thing, you know what? I'm gonna leave it with that one for now. I am gonna say goodbye. We're gonna do the Dwarven song, and with a little bonus bit. And I will see you very soon for part 2 of this video. And in part 2, I will talk about one more pattern and a few other antique samplers that I will show in that one. I think that might be a fun idea, because November will be Black Sampler November. Any of these samplers will be amazing, by the way, fully in black as well. I think they would be really good candidates for Black Sampler November as well. But for now, hope you have a wonderful day. I will see you.
Hum, dum, hum, dum, hum, dum, hum. For all the mithril he could mine, the purest gold ever so fine, the adamant with ruby shine, none shine as bright as she, none shine as bright as she. Hum dum with a roll of the drum, you lick and lick down deep her. Hum dum with a roll of the drum, you'll never ever leave her. Hum dum with a roll of the drum, for you beneath this mountain. Hum dum with a roll of the drum, my love will last forever. Under the mountain king is he, and by his side a standard she. Short in stature, tall with pride, none shine as bright as she, none shine as bright as she. Break my eyes, and the snow, my love for you, never be gone. Dum hum, dum hum, dum hum.